Hello, this is Chris Parker with the Business Simplicity podcast, and I just had a conversation with Karen DeBook and Jürgen Mouse from Green Elephants. And hey, Jürgen, what is it that we spoke about?
Yeah, we spoke about the launch of Green Elephants, the value that we bring to our customers, and also how the simple business design helped us starting up. So, hey, Karen, why would it be valuable to listen to this podcast?
Well, this would be very valuable because we very practically went into how to get your organization moving forward in a human way. And we had a nice conversation on the power of purpose and intention. And indeed, we went into the business design and how we applied this to ourselves.
The Business Simplicity Podcast, where we learn about strategies and tactics to succeed through simplicity, with your host, Chris Parker.
Welcome back to the Business Simplicity Podcast. And I'm having a conversation with two people, Karen DeBook and Jürgen Mouse from Green Elephants. And Green Elephants has recently been launched, and you can learn about it at greenelephants.be. And I am proudly a collaborator. So Ebullient and Green Elephants have worked together in the past and will certainly work together in the future. And I am delighted to have Karen and Jürgen on the conversation to share a little bit about what is Green Elephants doing in the world? What is the impact you're making? What are the problems you're solving? I know that there's been some preparation in this company launch. I've also used a simple business design canvas to help craft this. And I'm really excited to hear about how that methodology has helped. And generally, always very special and unexpected things happen when I talk to Karen and Jürgen. And today we have it together. So before we get into maybe learning about Karen and Jürgen, I understand that they wanted to perhaps start the conversation with a question for me.
Yeah, definitely. There's one question I always wanted to ask you, Chris. And the question is, who are you? And what is it what you do?
Wow, who am I? And what is it that I do? You know that's coming back at you. So expect that boomerang. Who are you? What is it that I do? And I think the difference of being and doing here, I think is perfect and poetic. I can answer that in so many ways. I what comes to my mind is I am a child trapped in a man's body. I see the world playfully. I see the world from the perspective of curiosity. I seek delight. I seek adventure. I seek experience. My dream job would be Santa Claus. I just want, if that job ever comes available, just to be able to magically conjure up things to bring delight to people, maybe not solve all their problems for them, because the power and the joy of life is through contrast, through conflict, through challenge, through tension. Satisfaction comes from overcoming obstacles and doing it usually with others, like we've done in the past, together in different ways. Um, a dear friend of mine, Trevor, described my user manual as somebody who opens the door, not as someone who is boldly opening doors, but if there's a door back in the corner in the shadow that no one really knows what it is, I'll find my way over there and just, what's going on here? And that always leads to the unexpected and the mysterious, seeking the different paths, maybe not so much to success, but to experience. I think that's answering another way. I'm an INTP, introverted, intuitive, thinking perceiver in Myers-Briggs. That means very, very, as opposed to like an ISFJ, I guess the opposite. So rational architectural thinking, introverted. I do a lot of my best work in my mind, yet also create through collaboration. So I tend to enjoy collaborative moments like this. Is there anything there that you didn't know about me, or that was maybe you want to unpack at all?
I I recognize it,
Yeah.
what you were saying. So that's nice. But
Mm.
But
you
most
ask
job
always that
is new
question.
to me.
You always ask that question, and we just start to recall that we also do it that when we are working with other people. So listen who they are,
Mm.
start from there, see where we can connect with each other. And that's why I wanted to ask that question as a beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. And what do I do? Maybe let's unpack that later, because it's I do a lot of different things. And right now I'm playfully engaging with the two of you and having the conversation about green elephants. So yeah. So maybe Karen, who are you?
Who am I? Well, my name is Karen, and together with Jürgen, recently launched Green Elephants, and talking about what is it that I love doing, what I bring to customers, what I'm passionate about. It's a lot in there. It's actually bringing more passion and meaning in our day-to-day professional lives in companies, making or helping people's work environments make me more meaningful and with a sense of belonging, together with energy, with flow, reinforce those two things, the well-being, the energy, together with bringing results to customers, combine those two things. And that's what we are passionate about, and bring more to companies, in our companies.
I would add also in alternative ways. Like I mean, you have this massive repository of methods and potions and tricks up your sleeve that you can unlock the dialogue with people in ways that is quite disarming and invites openness and transparency and vulnerability. Jürgen, who are you?
Maybe let's talk about who are we,
Oh,
because yeah, it's linked to what you have said right now. I met Karen, I think 7 years ago, Scrum Masters at some place, and we immediately had the feeling that we wanted to help people, to have a good job, not being pushed or whatever. So really have a good environment. I think we both are caring. We have some antenna for caring for people, and we dislike if that's not happening. And so we were looking for how to help teams. That's where we started from. And then we came in contact with Remy and Linda, two coaches from the Netherlands. And they created that repository that you called. They figured out, okay, what do we all have? What are the coaching techniques? What are other things? And the nice thing is that one of them is a psychologist, and Remy is more into software development. So they combined everything. And that's where we just jumped in with them. And so the alternative thing is, let's try to figure out, let's help people, but from a positive side, from believing in people. So there are some values there. And that's where we started from. We connected, we did more with each other. And Karen made me go back to my values at that moment. And I grew in a project lead role, but at some point we wanted to go back to, okay, that team with a couple of people, really the basics. And that's what we are, that's what I'm spreading out. And the more we did these assignments, the more we also went a little bit higher in organization, because we saw that, oh, it's not only about a development team, there's also a management team on top of that. And also the managers have lots of push or whatever environment. And that's where we grow with all these techniques and methods to help more and more people, and also higher up. And now I'm jumping around. And that's what I love to do. I love to go to guiding a management team, but at the same time, a couple of hours later, go into that team deep to see what they're now struggling with, where can we help, and most of the time let them figure out the solution for their problems and guide that process. That's a little bit what I do. That's what I love to do, and that's where, I got just obsessed by all these kind of things because I thought, okay, there's a way out, a better way of doing business, and then combining that with result, of course, because you don't have a good team if you are not going for one goal, trying to achieve something. So that's also in play, and that's where I thrive, I guess. But the first concern is helping people. That's caring about people. That's my basics. Yeah.
That's indeed the move we made, and I like you mentioned it, Chris. It's not about those tools or ways of working. It's about how do we work together? How do we work with sense? And that's also the reason why it became the tagline of Green Elephant. Make sense. And I have been working as an what I then called also agile coach from those ways of working and processes. And if only we would work like that, it would be much better and much more meaningful. However, then I discovered it's not about those ways of working, but what is that mindset? And then discovering coaching principles from based on positive psychology opened for me a whole new world. It's not about solving all those problems and not about what do we think that others should do to collectively solve those problems. It's more of what is it that we want to achieve? What is it that we want to realize? What is it that we want to bring to others? What is real value that we want to bring? What makes us thrive? And that's not the same for every person. Everyone has his own talents, desires, self-realization. And if you can combine this with what as a company you want to realize, as a team you want to realize, what you want to bring to customers, if you can combine those two. So what is it that you want to realize and what is needed to get there? And what are the different steps and where are we now? So often we start projects and we talk in companies let's do this and start that project and initiate this or that. It's not about starting or initiating. We are never at the starting point. We are always already a lot along the journey. And so let's move on from where we are literally in the direction what we want to achieve. And then make small steps from there and let's find out what are those most meaningful steps to make now and help people make to flourish in those steps. That's what it is about.
And I'm going to unpack some of these things. So I'm about to ask you, for the people in the department, like what work do you do with them and the outcomes, and maybe the manager of the department, what work and outcomes, and maybe the executive, as far as outcomes. But I would plug a little bit if you want to learn more about them. Both Karen and Jürgen have been on the podcast before, and I'll put in the show notes. In 2022, Karen, we spoke about achieving your ambitions, which is, and then also in Jürgen, the power of dreams. And I think that was also related to achieving ambitions, but maybe from a slightly different angle. So if you want to learn more about both of them, I'll put that in the show notes. So if we try to bring this super, super practical, and you are invited to intervene and engage in an organization, maybe list some of the organizations you work for, and then you're working with real humans, the people. What are the type of people that you work with the most, and what is the outcome for them? So like when you, I don't know, when you leave or when you're finished with that moment, and you look back and say, hey, high five, we together achieved this thing. How would you describe that?
That's a good question, and it's a little bit dependent on with who am I working with, because most of the times I guide or coach certain people, and we asked that question also, like, what is it, what we do, what is now is so important? And one of the remarks we get, and it's part in our logo because there's some ear, a human ear in that in logo that we have created. Um, we we always get the message we are listening. We are listening to what their problems are, what they want to achieve. You know, the dreaming. That's what I'm talking about. So, what do we want to achieve? And then we coach them on what they struggle with. But also, I make transparent on the things that he is not seeing. So that's what I'm trying out, making things transparent. Things that I see, he doesn't see it yet. So let's figure out things how to do that, maybe with data or whatever. It doesn't matter. Um, what the basic remark afterwards is that they made a good achievement. But it's not like what to say, we have done it together. It's really helping them. And that's also what they feel most of the time. That they have realized good steps in the way of working, maybe less frustrations, maybe things that are going more fluently. But most of the time, not the connection like we have done that together. But now and then I also then get the idea of like the comment like, yeah, but somewhere you were the glue in this. So they cannot really point what we did. They acknowledge that, they feel that there's something, I think you called it magic in some way, happened. I have no idea what that was. Yeah. One of an compliment I got from one of the general managers was like, you are like a Japanese garden. Everywhere flowers begin to blossom. I have no idea what you have done. It's happening, but we have no idea.
Yeah.
So that's more the effect we generate.
Well, grabbing onto that manager comment, who's observing the Japanese garden, and they don't know, but you do work with managers, so and have these interventions and these moments, these magical moments with managers, and help them out. So, how do you work with managers as opposed to like expert contributors or team members?
Well, this is an excellent question, Chris, to play back to you because we have worked together in a mission where you were one of those of the managers, and where you had an explicit goal or objective or reason why to invite a coach in the company. So, and it's you who called what we brought, like, or the impact we had, like magic. So, what was the magic? Why did you call it magic? What was in there? And why was that important to you at that moment?
Well, I love to answer it. Maybe I was too obvious in my leading the the conversation, but where I was going is like if there's an expert, a team member, a manager, and then some sort of executive influencer. And I think when we first met, I was probably more in the executive influencer domain as the chief platform and innovation officer with Destiny, the Belgian telco and telco software company. The pains we were experiencing was triggered by a legacy of M&A, so that company had been comprised of many different small companies with entrepreneurs. So they're already highly agile themselves. And these small agile, not micro teams, but like the companies, but not large corporates were being brought together. And there was cultural differences. There's technological differences. There's product misalignments, typical stuff from an M&A. And then we were facing a number of massive additional acquisitions which were coming that was going to double literally the size and staff and revenue of the company. And then how do you get around that? And the anti-patterns that I was seeing was the complaints, if you will, of delivery of features was too slow, too inconsistent. The quality was too low. We're not giving the market what it needs, or too inward looking, which makes sense because they were integrating. And then we, when we acquired the people, we had primarily a Belgian with a little Romania kind of That was the main populations. And then we're bringing in Swedes and Indians and mixing all that kind of up. And so how can we make these massive strategic structural changes, bringing different companies and cultures together with different products together? Some of the products would have to be sunset because we were buying some duplicate landscape pieces. And how do you do that without losing that incredibly valuable people resource? How do you do that without pissing everyone off, basically? And that was the mission, and we worked on that together for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And I think there was amazing outcomes, and a lot of it had to do with creating this. Maybe I'm going to try to, in hindsight, write the recipe of magic. So I'm sure I'll get this wrong, but creating the moments for people to share their ambitions, share their creations, share their expertise, share their professionalism in a way which could then be, appreciated, seen, appreciated from the others, the new colleagues, and create that space for dialogue, also about the hard things. We had this one session about killing your darlings, because some of the technologies we had to sunset with, people had literally worked on these for 20 years and they got acquired, and their piece of the puzzle, at least part of it, was getting shut. That's painful. That is someone's creation. And I think we created the moment, that in itself could be respected in a lot of ways. And also, one of the things that I think was really valuable for me was to identify, name, and visualize all of the change that was impacting these human beings. Because it wasn't just the product roadmap, it was all the other stuff that was happening, organizationally, improvements, strategy changes, and just starting to look and say, well, for these individual people and these teams that have to now work together in unnatural ways in the beginning, look at the load of change coming at them, and how do we again talk to that, and how do we identify that, and how do we sympathize with that? And I think just the fact that we created this space that people could talk about the overwhelm or the potential overwhelm was so healing and binding for people. And a lot of those structures are still there today. So that's how I would answer that as a previous customer.
Yeah, and that's a nice example of what we mean, and very concrete example of what we mean. Like, our true intent is to let others flourish. It's not about us. It's about the people in the companies where we work. And they have different challenges. Indeed, in that case, it was like all those small companies who had great collaboration amongst those people, great culture. We want to keep that culture, not to build a culture, but to keep those cultures when combining those different companies together. There was a challenge over there. In some other companies, it's like, we need to stay relevant in the future because so many changes in technology or environment. In others, it's like, we are growing fast, or we need to attract more talent, younger talent, or facing burnout in the companies, or whatever challenges we have, or like higher demands from customers with even lower budget. How can we face it? We have to restructure things and go. So there are different challenges. So first step is start to work with leadership and truly listen to leadership. Like, what is their challenge? What is it that, like, in 6 months from now or 1 year from now, what is it that they want to see realized? When will they and the company and the people, when will they be more successful? And first, listen to that, because that's literally our mission. Help them to realize that challenge. And what comes in most of the cases is like create those meaningful and that conversation amongst the people within the teams, newly composed teams or existent teams, cross teams, but also across a different, what we call the level of hierarchy. So connect people, let them empathize with those managers who they are talking about, like what do they think and why do they, and this won't work. Well, what are the responsibilities that those people have on their shoulders, and what are the struggles these people have in their minds, and link. So the understanding between the different levels or people of different levels in the organization. So bring these people in relation to each other so that they understand, and that related to this, in lots of cases, we are asked like, help the people to better collaborate so that the teams can thrive. And then first question is, what do teams need to thrive and to be more self-organizing? That's basically two things: clarity on vision and clarity on level of or standard of quality. And it starts from there, like, what is it that we want to achieve all together? And when is it good enough? And then let the people self-organize. And then that's something I learned so clearly from you, Chris. At that point, it all turns around, and then management comes in the supporting role of the whole organization. Given that this is where we want to go with this standard of quality, how can we as leaders help you to together achieve this? And yeah, that's a beautiful space to work in.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that and then open it up for Jürgen to see if he has any more reflections. But I guess if you are a manager and executive and you don't want to waste time talking or engaging, and you just want people to work harder and do more of what you say, then I guess don't call green elephants, I guess. but if you have this feeling that things are stuck in the organization, that people are unnecessarily in overwhelm, if you have the suspicion that maybe you as the manager might be part of the problem as well, then this is, I believe, when you would need an organizational coach like Green Elephants can provide, to come in and not get into the process like a normal consultant would be and like optimize the machine and start tinkering, but so it's not working, in the business, but working on the business. So, to come in and hold your hand as a manager a little bit to say, okay, let's take a breather and take a step back and reflect on what are we really trying to achieve here. And with the other hand, hold the team. The manager can be part of the team, of course. And reflect on what's working well, what's not working well, and create that space. And usually I think maybe some techniques and some methodologies and some tooling can be brought in, but typically the within the system, the problem was already known and the solutions are already known. So it's not like you have to come up with any sort of rocket science, but yeah, Jürgen, what's your reflection?
My reflection on this is that try to figure out what is now the essence, what is now the need. Sometimes I come in companies and they focus, for example, only on the product, for example, and then we try to push people because we are not making it, or expectations have been set. But they forget then to also think about how people are delivering, because I see what you want to improve is probably both how you create value for a customer, but at the same time, you want to also, I call it the machine. I should not call it a machine because it's not so human, but the machine, like how is everything proceeding? How is that running? Because we want to make business now. We also want to make business maybe in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now. So we have to do both of them. And then what I try to figure out, okay, where is now the need? Is there more needs? And do they have an idea that we want to work in a better way? Or is there a lot of frustrations because things are not running as expected, for example? Or is it more on the business side? So figure out the needs, because people always say change is difficult, but if the need is clear on the table, people change. They
Mm.
have more problems, like we have to go to a kind of framework where they might not see the need, they might not see the problems that they are solving, because in these frameworks, a lot of problems you might not have in that company. Maybe you do have a couple of them, but not everything. So figure out, okay, what is now what we really want. Do we want to get rid of some frustrations, burnout, or whatever? Do we fail to, or is it difficult to deliver in a short time? These kind of things, because then you can take people along in that story. And it's this little bit linked to that dream where I was busy with 2 years ago. Like, what is the dream? But the dream can be indeed on the company and products, but can also be on the way of working. And you need to keep the balance there, um, and bring the people in there.
Mm.
The real problems, the real things that you want to change, and it doesn't always have to be problematic. It could also be like, we are here and we still want to make it better. Um, and that's where we play a role in, I guess, to
I'm,
figure out.
I'm curious, what's your advice if every company, with many people in it, and those many people have different levels of expertise and expectation and desires of way of working, different opinions of priority, and so there's an endless amount of potential improvements to make. How do you assist in the prioritization process? Like how do we find, do we need to find the one thing, or can we have the 100 things, or can it be something in between, or can everyone do their own
uh,
thing?
it's
Where's the magic mix of what to focus on?
it's a nice one, because this is one of the things that I give a remark on the retrospective in one team. They were doing a retrospective, so they listed all the improvements that they want to do, and then they did dot voting on the first three. Now, what happened? They do the dot voting, and it seems afterwards in the meeting they are already busy with that on a higher level. Um,
Hmm.
and this is a little bit linked on what you are saying, Chris, because on a higher level you probably want to have these 1, 2, 3 most impactful changes, and then you do a workshop on that, and you try to figure out what is that now, and then you try to work on them. In the teams itself, I more try to observe what are the quick wins. Not always the biggest one, but every small win is a nice one, and that bring a kind of continuous. People talk about continuous improvements. Well, that's not always the biggest one. It's continuous busy with, okay, how can we make small steps and trying to improve on things. So I try then to explore with them. Like, if I hear something, I try to pick it up and, like, is there something in it here?
Hmm.
Is it small or big or impactful? Yes or no? I don't care. Can we do a fast improvement? Yes, then let's go ahead. But the higher you
Yeah.
go up, you don't have that, and then you try to figure out the most impactful ones, and then you do
Yeah.
it differently.
At the
And
moment,
what
I'm
I add,
yeah,
and
go.
what I add to it, Chris, is also, sorry for disturbing you.
No, go.
If I do a workshop, I also try to figure out, can they also do a kind of structured way of continuous reviewing it? Because you have these workshops that we do, and then we have these 2, 3 improvements, and then at sometimes it disappears because we have that much work and every action is done. So I try also to make a kind of
Hmm.
reflect back to them. Okay, how can we make that workshop that we don't lose the value of it? How will you organize for that? So I do the extra step to make sure that they really try to have kind of continuous in these improvements.
No, great. At the moment, I'm working on, and we'll probably be finished by the time this is published, but I'm working on a, a strategy project
Mhm.
with an electric company, um, based on the simple business design. And this department we're working with has indeed a whole roadmap of corporate projects going on that are going to solve some stuff. And that's what I'm also trying to do, and say, well, let how can we identify, and visualize and plan, okay, these are the some big initiatives that are floating around that someone else is responsible for and you're a participant in. So you need to plan your participation. So can we kind of ignore that then for a while, plan it, but ignore it? And then my question for Karen's coming up as well. And then there's a bunch of stuff that we can actually say no to. And so I'm curious, how can we identify, and how can we agree no. So then what's left is this hopefully smaller pile, now, next, later, but smaller pile of achievable things that this team can actually do, because the corporate stuff is going to happen on its own schedule. And there's probably a lot of stuff that maybe you just, I don't know, for whatever reason, you can't do, because who knows what. But Karen, how do you help people? And maybe this is the most fundamental question to strategy. How can you decide what not to do? Because it's very easy to say, let's do it all. Let's go, you. But if you do it all, then you're dead on arrival. You're already overwhelmed and you'll never succeed.
Yeah, there are actually two parts in this question. It's like what not to do. And then there are still lots of things that we will do. And then the question is like, shall we do all those things together, or in what order will we do? And a metaphor I often use for the work that we will do, and I will come then to how to say no to other things. It's like the metaphor of traffic jam. All those cars to which we said yes, they have to be at 9 o'clock in the morning all together, all of them in Brussels at 9 o'clock. And what happens to all those cars who got budget to go to Brussels to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning? They stuck each other. And we all know that feeling, and we experience it every morning. And if you look from a bit distance to this system, you see, well, they are blocking each other. There come so few cars arrive in Brussels at 9 o'clock. How does this come? Well, they are stucking and impeding each other. And with work, it's exactly the same. People are jumping from left to right, doing all those things at the same time together. Until burnouts, and then other people say how we have so talented people, they are working evenings and weekends, and so few comes out. So first thing is, how can we get flow or speed in what we want to get done? Is first of all have that order and one thing after another, and focus more on flow than on speed of all those things together. And then, of course, it's the struggle for what first. And it's like actually, and then it's kind of a second metaphor, like if you have lots of work in your house, in the garden, in and around your house in the garden, what comes first and what to do, what to say yes to and what to say no to. It's not about what is not relevant, because we have all much more things that we want to do and that are relevant. So keep asking those questions. What is it that we really need to do and what is less relevant? All those things are relevant. So it's not a question about relevance. It's like, what is the reference that we use for prioritization? It's like not about let's have a look at this house, but what is our vision on living? And given this is our vision on living and on family life and on maybe still some other things, given that this is our vision, what is then most important to do first now to best realize that vision of living? And so when it comes to leadership on prioritization, what we often experience is that the teams say, we need to do all these things, and all these things are approved and much together. So then we are in the traffic jam. However, what is the vision on living? That's something that for the teams is lacking or is not clear enough. And that's for the management team not easy to formulate as well. And so our message then is let's focus less on the working and the ways of working of the teams, but let's focus more on make clear what is our vision on living, so that this is a common reference for everyone to prioritize. And so then comes in, like Jürgen said, when talking about teams and well-functioning teams, the management has as a mission, as a product, to deliver the vision to the rest of the company. That's also kind of product building, and that's also kind of finding the common view with the different expertises that you need in the team, having meaningful conversations there, finding each other, listen to each other, truly listen to each other, and then finding each other in a clearly elaborated and communicated vision. So prioritization, not everything at the same time, and start with a clear vision. It goes hand in hand.
This is a hard one, because you
Well, I was
try
gonna say,
to
it sounds
inspire.
very hard. It sounds like a lot of effort.
Yeah, you try to inspire at the front side. What I do, and because I was already saying, I try to make things transparent. What I have already noticed is look also at the output side, outcome side. So what is happening? So people start doing kind of plans, and from the moment I scan that I'm able to indicate that we are running behind, and then we have to be careful that we don't escalate. You put that also on the table, because that's where the PDCA, so really plan, do, check, act. So the changes, the reviews are coming into play. Like, we are not on plan. What should we do? And then on the different levels, you can try to set up these reviews and say, okay, what do we have to do? Because it's easier to say that we have to get rid of some scope when we know that we are not on time anymore than at start. But at start, we try to push as much as possible. And this is what you try to do. Also on the outcome side, like, we want to figure out as soon as possible if we have delays, and try to set something up that it's not an escalation, but a kind of normal way of working, because this is normal that we will have delays and so on. How can we make that also flowing? Like, do we have these meetings that we just look, okay, what is now happening? How can we make solutions for that? Should we shift something? Should we do something in another way? Try to also install that, because this is a little bit easier to put things on the table.
I'm going to grab onto something, looking at the shelf behind Karen, and there's a book about love and leadership. It's one of the things that and our working together and experiencing that was also an inspiration for me of discovering this leading from love. And earlier in the book process, I also kind of counterbalanced it with lazy leadership. And lazy leadership, I think, is a trap. And I'm curious if I imagine you agree with it, but maybe we can unpack it, that if you don't invest up front on the vision, and getting a solid vision is not easy. That is a piece of work, to a solid, compelling vision that actually makes sense, people understand, they can connect to, that's work. And then communicating it, making sure people understand it so they can embody it. But if you don't do that, if you're lazy on the front end, you're going to suffer later, because you're going to have the wrong stuff. You're going to have rework. You're going to have frustration. You're going to have lack of delivery. So I'm wondering if the effort is the same, maybe, still work, but if you put a little more effort up front to set it, I don't know. Could you say it that way, or am I making it too simplistic?
Well,
the thing is, you have to do your vision and know what you want to achieve and so on.
But I know companies that don't do this.
Okay.
And
well, actually, it reminds me on Chris, when we met in one of the first conversations we had on like how to build that vision, and you're mentioning now vision that makes sense. One of the first methods to get there was simple business design that you had developed. So why was it that you have developed this? What was your intent behind it? And I will immediately add a second question to it, because it's the link to your book, Lead from Love, a vision that makes sense. Then the question is, what makes sense for whom? And what is sense that requires to go deeper into yourself? That's also what counts for vision. So why was it that you have built and designed that the design scan, and how does it relate to the more sense in your book?
I can definitely answer that. I will follow up with a question before we end about you used it yourself, and so we're gonna unpack that. I would love to hear about, and I didn't know about it. You were using this method yourself, autonomously, independently, and I'm really fascinated about that. But I want to wrap up with a vision thing once, because there's, people talk about, McKinsey says, 80% of corporate transformations fail. And they pointed all these methods, most corporate initiatives are based on nonsense visions. This stuff shouldn't be happening, or people don't understand it, they don't get it. So what I'd love to see the metric of well articulated, proper strategy with proper process, proper engagement. Which of those transformations or changes or initiatives fail? But no one wants to talk about that, because people say, oh, my big SAP project failed. Shouldn't have done it. Should never have happened, or whatever the thing is. I don't want to point at SAP necessarily. So, but the simple business design, the canvas, came out of selfish reasons, completely selfish reasons. And it was born out of enterprise architecture work that I've done at LeasePlan and other organizations, that when you're implementing change across people, process, technology, data, depends on how you look at it as competencies, being able to give language to the different working components of a business helps people understand it. And for me, this is the gift of enterprise architecture. But a lot of the times, most of the times, these changes in systems or in process are done out of context, meaning if you don't know the purpose of the organization, if you're not clear on the customer and the product and maybe the customer journey, so the outside in process view, and you start tinkering with this stuff inside, you're going to have unintended consequences. And if you don't know how you're measuring, you're not sure, what how the brand would be able to play in this, you don't know the ecosystem on who else is providing services. And what I found is, if you can ask just a number of simple questions, you would pretty clearly figure out where the disconnect is. And that's how it started to evolve. And then I did a lot of research on why companies fail. So many, many, many reports. And I have these massive spreadsheets of all these reasons that companies fail. And then I did some grouping on it. And I have this like this two, this X and Y axis massive thing. And then I started, massaging and orienting. And that's how I came down to the 15, say, domains in the canvas. So matching enterprise architecture with some research on company failure. And then I started to use it because people frequently ask me to help them or advise them on their company. And I started saying, answer these 15 questions first, which did two things. A lot of people just disappeared because they didn't want to do any work. And so it's kind of a pre-work thing, like, hey, do this. And then, but when it did come back, I was able to read it and then really target, hey, how about this? Are you sure about that? I'm missing this. And it was able to have many more valuable conversations, either formally or informally. And then what I also learned about myself, and so far this still stays true, if I'm not able to answer those 15 questions in comfort and confidence on an initiative that I'm in, it usually ends badly. So it's, so being able to describe those domains, particularly if you're working with someone else and you two work together on it as well, maybe with others, it's an alignment tool to have at least a starting point. Even if I identify, hey, we're not quite sure about this, but you explicitly say, we're not sure about this. And therefore that's something to work on. I think that in itself is a gift when you're coming together with people. So that's a little bit the origin story of the simple business design. And then I started working on a book on it, which turned out to be horrible. And then it turned into something else completely. So maybe that will be published one day. And you decided to use this methodology as you were preparing to collaborate and come together and give form to Green Elephant. So I have a couple questions on you. One, why did you decide to use it? So because it's not necessarily easy. It can be confronting. There's effort involved. And how did you experience it? Like, what did you learn maybe about each other through that process? Because when you're partnering up with someone, I think learning and aligning is so important. So why did you do it, and what did you learn through it?
Well, first question, why? For me, that's an easy question because I had seen it working. I had seen it working in such a powerful way, like those 15 so simple, easy questions that for the people who have to answer it and to align on it are not so easy to answer. And so it's about business design. So if you start a company, it's like the questions that we together realized these are the simple but so hard questions that we have to answer ourselves. Also like eat your own dog food, answer the questions that you ask to others as well. And then, yeah, it was quite confronting, like when we applied it together, Chris, I was first surprised that like, okay, we are going to do workshops around those 15 questions. And the preparation work was, yes, indeed, the preparation work was answer those 15 questions. Like, okay, is it in the workshops or is it the preparation? And so what was an eye-opener for me at that moment, and what was again our own experience, and at the same time the reason why applying this method ourselves was like you're forced to think about those 15 simple questions by yourself, having an opinion on it, formulate your opinion, and then share it with the other in that order, and then to try to find each other on that. And that was a process that we wanted to love through to go through ourselves, and that's why we choose to apply it.
I love it that you did that way. And when I run business design sprints based on that methodology, we always start with the individual participants writing out in long form, and then as pairs reflecting, and then having the individuals write again in long form to adopt it, and then bring it together and assimilate. Because I find if you start with a blank sheet, you can get so abstract and lost so fast. But if you have things, hey, this is how I describe the customer, and this is how you describe the customer, and it's 80% the same, but it's not. Why not? Because I think that those are the conversation starters. Those are the things that then you're talking about the deltas, like I call them, like the violent disagreements. You should also challenge the violent agreements, by the way, because maybe you're both wrong. Maybe you're just down in some sort of mind trap, and but typically those are things that you can align pretty quickly. But then you can use your energy on what the difference is and focus on the alignment there. So, and what did you learn?
We learned that, and it's you mentioned in the beginning. So you said, okay, we have a repository with all kinds of things, and I think that's also a little bit our problem. We can use that for everything. And so we had some difficulties to really, okay, what is now our business? Because we are so busy with teams and organizations and what to do with that we just forgot, okay, but what is now what we really are doing? What is now what differentiates us for the others? And yeah, it was not so an easy task to then be confronted with these 15 questions and thinking not only about what we are doing, but also what we want to achieve. What is our customer now? And so it brought us really to customers and how to enter them, and what is our story to them. Because before it was like we can help everywhere, because if from the moment you have a team in problems or organization, we can jump in. So and that was a difficult one, and we had to learn that also, how to find a way of how do we align and how do we come to the essence, and not write a whole page on every question, because this is what we did, and also did, and also this, and also that, and our company is also for this. So it was a difficult road, but we also learned how it would work for us, for example. So preparing separately, then bring it together at one place, then see how we can discuss that, and then really go to the essence. Like, okay, what can we now get rid of? What is now important? What is now a really important thing? What is maybe side thing? So it's helped us to really a little bit more sharp on the business itself, and not only on what we are doing at the customer. Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I
exactly.
what I loved when I read it was throughout the entire thing, you really you just your deep intent, your intention, your purpose flowed through it. Meaning you really wrote it from your desire to serve, to collaborate, to make sense of, and that was there. And then it was also nice to see, on different iterations that I saw that, sometimes you went wide, and then some decisions were made. It looked like, which was nice. And these are not fixed things, so pick it up in 6 months and look at it again and see, well, does this still make sense? What have we learned? Can we refine this? Yeah, lovely. Karen, what were you going to add?
Yeah, two things. I wanted to add, like, was also my learning, like, we are so passionate about what we do at the customer side and the impact that we achieve, and foster collaboration and meaningful work, and achieve more innovation and impact with the business, and so on and so on. And we have kind of Swiss knife with all those frameworks and all those tools and all those coaching techniques. And we are so passionate about, and then having to translate this in what is it that we want to achieve as a business, and what does this mean business-wise, and have an aligned vision on that. With those easy questions, it's not easy. And that's exactly what's happening with the customers as well. Like, how difficult is it to have this formulated in a concise and aligned way? Well, that difficult it is, and we experienced that ourselves as well. So that was a really nice learning. Coming back on what you just added, Chris, it's like, this is a nice reference on, like, aligning to each other, and having this as a basis that can evolve. And that's also a reason why we spend quite a lot of time on this, because we are in a business that evolves. Our customers are in very changing environments, and that's exactly why they call us in. And this is also what's the case for us ourselves. How do we want to grow our business? What will be the ways how we help our customers navigating in this ever-changing world? Will have to adapt as well. And how can we be conscious about our collaboration and what we want to achieve? It's like having the why behind it very clearly formulated, so that for us, that's also the reference on which we want to make decisions and choices. And before you know, you have new thoughts, and your thoughts are evolving. But this will, for us, literally, again, be the reference time to time, periodically, to review this. And is this still the why from where we are operating and we are doing what we do? Literally, Simmons golden circle, the why, the what, and the how. We are so passionate about the what and the how, but what is the why? And that's what the business designs can help us with.
Yeah.
And will continue to help us with.
I also loved it that you used it as an input for your new website, which people can find at greenelephants.be for Belgium. I've done that myself as well. When people ask me, hey, can you help me with the website? Having them go through that process, it answers all the questions you need to know for the website. Looking at the other stuff, because you were also developing your specific brand and your logo, and of course that's another abstraction, but super cool. So I would hold it up again. There's green elephants, and you can see there's a elephant ear, and there's some other hidden in, as Jürgen already mentioned, green elephants. Makes sense. Yeah, I love it. Congratulations on forming green elephants. In the show notes, I will put the link to the website. And if you go to the website, you can also experience, how They have used the simple business design in order to craft that. So I'm really excited to see it myself. It will be launched shortly before we release this podcast. I will put the links to the other previous podcast conversations I've had with each of them, and of course to their LinkedIn. But before I wrap, and if the answer is no to this, it's fine. But is there anything that either of you feel is left unasked? Is there something that's burning on you that hey, let's not wrap this up until this is so my question to you
There's one question.
There's
one question, Chris. Yeah. Because one of out of the scan, it came out that we want to broaden our innovation and work with people, so learn from others, and that's came really hard out of that, and so you're one of them. So my question would be, how complementary is Green Elephants for you, and where do you see our innovation then together and broaden our knowledge about business and what we are doing?
Great. I am focusing on really the intersection between, let's say, technology and humanity. That's where I like to play and be curious. You work more on the humanity part, meaning you're in the human dimension of the organization, and that's hugely powerful. So if I'm running a transformation or influencing that way, then working with you in that would be an absolute delight. And you have other people. You also mentioned Remy, Armand, and Linda, and Jan, Steph, others that are in the network that we could collaborate with. My dream would be, so if I want to put a last little plug here, is we have this 5 half-day strategic sprint structure that we've run just on strategies, on sustainability. We're doing it on data and AI right now with another company. And this has been formed into an AI acceleration sprint. So it's 5 half days, not going deep into the technology, but more into the organizational impact. So how, you need a strategy for AI for your organization. I would love it, because typically if you have 15 people from an organization, say 10 to 15 going through that, you need 3 coaches. And I would just love to work on that with the 2 of you. Can you imagine that coming into an organization using all of our skills and all of our magic? And then we bring in some expert speakers, and then we have some little hackathon moments in there. We open people's eyes to the opportunities and the risks. And at the end, they walk out with a co-created bottom-up strategy for AI that these people then present to the executives. So it's completely the world upside down. They present the vision to the executives on where they're going for the next 12 months. What could be more complimentary than that? So if anyone's interested in that, yeah, wouldn't it be fun and hugely valuable? Then you can find it at boolean.com or greenelephants.be. So that's how I would answer that. My question back to you. This is one of the first times that I think you've been presenting Green Elephants. How did it feel? How did it feel for you to express this thing that you've manifested, that you've created, called Green Elephants, in really such a public way? And then we'll wrap up. Let's see. I think Jürgen, how does it feel to express this?
It feels like it's like an open road that is in front of us, where we really want to go. So really, the things that we have discussed before, it's really kind of starting point for us with a bright horizon. Things are possible. We can now go out with it. We have our story. It's nice to talk with people about it, and it just feels like very, very promising in what we are doing, and just in confidence what we have done in the past, that this is the right way. That's how it feels for me.
Karen, how are you feeling?
It gives such a warm feeling. Literally feel that in these times, the opportunities are endless to literally realize our deepest intent to help others flourish and be successful and thrive as individuals, as teams, as organizations, and in such a positive way, be able to contribute to that and feel that given on what we have already done so far, this even it's a humble and small contribution, this works. So eager to do more of that under the flag of Green Elephants.
Wow. Karen de Boeck, Jürgen Maus from Green Elephants. Thank you so much for joining. Jürgen, you asked me, who am I at the beginning? And one of the things I shared was, playful, seeking the positive, and realizing the value of contrast and conflict and tension. And I know the journey to this moment has not been easy because, there's been the bumps along the way, shall we say. And it's been just an honor having you here to celebrate this moment, this celebration of manifestation of something that holds so much potential. And I hope you also feel it. It's what I feel, that the challenges getting to this point has made this worth it. And the gift to yourselves is to really invest in it and achieve those dreams. So, and I'm looking forward to working with you both as you do that. So greenelephants.be. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for having us here.
Thank you for listening. Visit ebullient.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player.